Very good morning to you. Welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. I'm Jeffrey Osun. It's a brand new day. Good morning, guys.
Yes, indeed. It's Wednesday. Good morning, Kelly. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Good morning, Bukola.
Yeah.
I was just a moment ago that I saw a video where you were dancing over the weekend.
Oh, I can't believe that you. I can't believe that you bring that
here. No, I had to bring it because I didn't see that video before you came on the show yesterday, so I should just give that a mention. But nice.
Well, you know, we work so hard, so hard. A lot of
so
the days of the week,
party,
and so when we have
so
the
hard.
time, yeah, we party hard as well, and we relax as much as we can. Yeah.
While you guys are partying, Nigerians are waiting for us to find out exactly what we're dealing with this morning. So first up, the president has now ordered a probe into the saga that involves the fictitious, as they call it, the gentleman, Prince Adeyemi, and the agency that everybody is now denying, to the effect that, look, we don't even understand how you did this, but to the best of our knowledge and what we know, we do not know you. And that case, part of it is in court. Now the president has ordered an investigation because a lot of Nigerians were clamoring to the effect that besides court, a lot of people need to answer questions from the office of the chief of staff to the president, the office of the secretary to the government of the federation, the accountant general. We can go on and on. So now the president has done what he should do. How this will end is a different kettle of fish. I'm trying to go back to see some of the reference, if I may read the reference to what the president had ordered. He said, President Tinubu directed the ICPC to investigate not only the conduct of the principal individual and other collaborators involved, but also the wider circumstances that may have enabled the fictitious body and a false claim of presidential appointment to acquire an appearance of official legitimacy. So that is coming from the directive of the president. So how many people will be called to question is another kettle of fish altogether. But people are raising concerns as well, Bukola, to the effect that, I think it was yesterday, some of the papers were reporting that Femi Gbajabiamila, for instance, who is the principal person mentioned, who has denied and even filed a pre-action notice against Prince Adeyemi, else is going to initiate a suit against him to the tune of 10 billion naira if he doesn't apologize and exonerate him from all the things he claimed, because he has constantly denied that all the things this gentleman claimed against him are false. So people are raising concern about the fact that he's also going to be part of those who are chairing the State Police Implementation Committee. So the question is the president giving us body? The body language is not as clear as crystal, because this said the argument for those proponents of that part of the conversation is that in other crimes, somebody like Femi Gbajabiamila, for instance, should have stepped down to allow the investigation carry through. But guys, you remember when the president hosted the maiden media core dinner, which happened, the president spoke. I remember Gbajabiamila spoke as well. I think he said he was surprised. He didn't expect to speak. So when he was told to speak, and now this, I think he's always been part of this state police implementation, but I stand to be corrected. But now is to make sure that workability, the implementation work out as soon as possible, because you know he was the Speaker of the House of Representatives, so he has a lot of legislative background. He's also a lawyer. So is it that the president is saying something this way and then doing something that way without trying to posit it? So on one hand, investigate, but this gentleman is innocent until proven guilty. So that is the argument right now on the streets of Nigerians, in the heart of some Nigerians.
Well, maybe there may be more, arguments that have not been covered, because one thing that is protruding amid this conversation is that this gentleman has so far been called a con artist, and his agency, which he claims to chair, has been presented as a fake agency. But that doesn't answer all of the questions, and that's why I've been looking very closely at the statement emanating from the State House containing President Bola Tinubu's directive to the ICPC to investigate this alleged fake agency. And I'm wondering if it also directs that those actors involved be investigated. It does state somewhere in the 6th paragraph or so, yes, President Tinubu directed the ICPC to investigate not only the conduct of the principal individual and other collaborators involved, but also the wider circumstances that may have enabled the fictitious body and a false claim of presidential appointment to acquire appearance of official legitimacy. And so I was hoping that collaborators could have been specific, because, you know, this began with the legitimate agency, what's it called now, the Foreign Investment Promotion Council or so, raising alarm about the duplicity of this fictitious body, and then the Ministry of Foreign Affairs also sending a letter to the Office of the Secretaries of the government seeking clarification of the status, the specific status of this particular body. So Mr. President's statement ought to have been more specific about who these alleged collaborators are, because for this man to have the effrontery to come on national television and say that the court will vindicate him, and, you know, for reports to be coming through about alleged bribery, you know, against the chief of staff to the president, and, you know, him demanding additional 200 million naira for whatever transaction that may have transpired, that word collaborators could have been more specific about the actors involved, because this man couldn't have gotten a budget code, a line item in a legal appropriation document, and an office in a secretariat where he operated from, and then interacted with, you know, members of the diplomatic community for years under this particular administration without an insider. And so I'm going to take that continuous reference to this man as a con man and his agency as a fake agency with a pinch of salt rather than a pack of salt, until the administration does well to clear its name, because this borders on institutional integrity by insisting that the alleged collaborators in this particular saga be investigated alongside this man. Because, again, we ask, he got a budget code, a line item in the budget for which more than $1 billion was allocated to his agency, and he's been operating, and, you know, the administration comes out to say that it's a fictitious body. That is, you know, a bit, you know, unbelievable, you know, until the exact details come through. And who is this, you know, gentleman that, you know, ensured the connection, if you like, or the introduction, you know, to officials of the ministry that has now passed on? That ought to be investigated as well, gentlemen. And it's rather difficult to accept that, you know, we should just accept this man as an alleged con man or his agency fictitious. Kelly.
Yes, Bukola, I mean, I made some of my, I gave some of my analysis yesterday, and maybe I should just continue from where I stopped. It's really, really embarrassing. For me, again, this is a national embarrassment. I'm just wondering why we keep painting the image of this country to the world in this manner all the time. I mean, the fact that we're even having to have this kind of conversation, national conversation, because of this is, for me, really embarrassing. You see the images of this man meeting with, you know, foreigners, and then you wonder, how come? So that's the first thing I want to say. But for the statements, my question mark, for instance, is why is Mr. President having to order the ICPC? Does Mr. President have to do the ordering? Don't they know their job? How come the ICPC, EFCC know how to chase after some persons, and they have to wait for Mr. President to give the order before they probe this particular alleged scandal? So I'm just, that's a big concern for me. And I like the fact that in Nigeria, you have the word Independent Corrupt Practices Commission, and yet they're never independent. Independent National Electoral Commission, and yet they are never independent. So the president, it had to take the president, after 2 weeks of this story breaking, to reveal to Nigerians. Question mark number 2. The president is ordering a probe and giving them a deadline of 30 days. After 2 weeks, are we really serious here? For me, if you want something to be done, because there's something really peculiar about Nigerians. We have a national disease in the word forgetfulness. We forget a lot. So 30 days, and before you know it, something else will just get our attention, and then this matter will just be laid to rest. So 30 days to investigate this. I think for a story that has been in the news, dominated headlines for almost 2 weeks now, I think that is too long. I'm not sure how the Beta Edu case was handled. I'm not sure how the Uche Nnaji case was handled. And so that's why many Nigerians are questioning why the chief of staff stays in his office while this investigation goes. That is a very, very powerful office. And I think if there are question marks around it, then indeed something has to be done drastically.
And we might also ask why, his family members have been arrested and why the force headquarters has been unwilling to confirm or deny the circumstances around the arrest of his family members, this man's family members, Prince Adeyemi Adeniyi.
His father.
So we should ask the administration to come through, with answers to these questions as well.
We will definitely ask all of those questions. At the end of the day, I look at the ACJA, for instance, the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. I spoke to some lawyers. They say it's illegal to arrest a suspect. The family member, there's a way the ACJA put it, Section 7. I don't know the premise for which they did what they did, but a lot of things happen in our country. You get to find out later what exactly is going on. But I think the clamor here is that a lot of people may have wanted the chief of staff to resign, not resign, step aside, that's the right word, if these investigations are to be properly conducted, because now he's very active. Now, for the records, he has constantly denied, even with his lawyers, to say, I am not guilty, I don't know this man, I have no idea what he's talking about. But he's one of the most principled persons this man has mentioned, even in a presser with heavy allegations. But this is Nigeria. We hope that there will be anything useful that will come out of this investigation. We will keep our tabs on it and ensure that this doesn't go the way of the regular stuff. And again, the office of the chief of staff, I was looking at it the other day, is an administrative convenience. It's not a constitutional office. It's how politicians just, somebody to manage the staffing of the presidency and run all of this. Why this is very difficult for the president or the presidency to wish it away is three things. First, the budget of this mini agency found itself in the Appropriation Act of the federal government, or the Nigeria. The second part is that whether or not he completed the CBN processes of registering a bank account, it started. Although the presidency and the Office of the Auditor General are conflicting in their position.
Accountant General. Yeah,
Accountant General, I should say. So then the issue of him having a secretariat and staff. So this guy it's difficult to believe this guy worked alone.
If he had staff, if he had
about 300
if he had an office and he had staff, what allocation did he secure to pay those staff? For crying out loud, it's been operating from the beginning of the administration. So where did he secure the allocation to begin operations? So
you know why we say all of these things as journalists? So that whoever is investigating ICPC, they will answer all of these questions. ICPC, as you're doing your work, we're giving you questions we need answers for, and more questions you will provide answers for. The public image of our country has been battered over and over again. The trust quotient has dropped significantly. And these are the things that mess our image up. So sometimes before you say, don't speak ill of your country, do basic housekeeping. This housekeeping is required. Everybody who is responsible, remotely or directly, has to roll back. Or take, by the way, just 1 minute before we go, somebody has raised a motion on the floor of the Senate, resolution saying that because of the issue around insecurity in Nigeria, this whole rehabilitation and reintegration of terrorists should end. Some of us have advocated for it because it doesn't make sense. It may come later, but right now, if you carry gun against the state, you go the way of the states will have you go. Yeah. If you survive that duel, well, we'll take you and put you in life imprisonment forever. But we'll take a break. Oh, we understand we have
a soundbite.
I rise to move the following comments by a South African minister to the effect that compensation will not be paid to those Nigerians whose properties were looted, shop burnt, and even life taken.
Compelling conversation
by Abdulaziz Yaradua, representing Katsina State. So it wasn't so Shomole actually. But for me, the concern, well, they are halting the editorial. What I've heard is some say they are suspending, some say they're halting the process.
They're making a proposal. They can't halt. They are telling the federal government
to suspend.
To suspend, yes.
Yes. But I'm just, for me, I mean, it's not a matter of, they should put an end to it, because if you check what is playing out in the north, I'm just wondering how elections are going to hold in some parts of northern Nigeria. There are places where farmers, according to reports, fear the bandits. They have, in fact, they pay 10% of their whatever and 20% to bandits. So insecurity has been on the rise in some regions, in some aspects. The fact that we have it very cool here, that's not the case in northern Nigeria. And so I'm happy that Abdulaziz Yar'Adua has had to move that motion, and I think they should put an end to it because it doesn't make sense. That is why banditry, that's why kidnapping, for instance, you know, it's now the new oil. It's now where everyone thinks that they can make. Imagine, is it the Eda Onio, when people were kidnapped, worshippers were kidnapped.
Local government.
And they were asking for 1 billion naira. The government refused to pay, but the community raised monies and paid. And that's how those persons were rescued, according to reports. So for me, they should put an end to it because this is encouraging kidnapping for ransom, particularly, especially in the north, where this is really, really prominent.
Well, Kelly, elections have held in the northern part of the country in 2019 amid the peak of insurgency, and even in 2023. So the more important question, or the more important point to be made to the administration and even successive administrations, is that there must be a political will summoned from wherever it can come from to ensure an end to banditry and insurgency, especially with the commentary that we keep pointing out time and again of, you know, leaders of the administration ascribing it to the opposition. We must demand accountability for an enduring solution, you know, to banditry and insurgency, because non-state actors cannot be greater than the authorities that hold sway in a particular country. And so this is coming a little too late in the day.
Well, let's get it done. But we'll take a break, and we'll come back after this break. We'll bring our guest analyst, member of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, Mr. Akaria, joins us from our Abuja studios. Stay with us. All right, let's get things started. Mr. Ego Akaria, as I introduced him, member of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. Mr. Akaria, good morning and welcome to the program.
Yeah, good morning, Geoffrey, Bukola, and Kelly. It's a pleasure to be here this morning.
Yeah, Mr. Akaria, it appears that there are two, you know, in Nigerian things move on quickly, just like Kelly had mentioned. There are two issues that have refused to stubbornly move on, and that is the kidnapping of the Oridre children, which our eyes are still on, and then this issue of whether it's a phantom ministry or phantom agency or fictitious, as the federal government chooses to as described it. But let's go to, yeah, let me spoil for choice a lot of the papers now. Let's go to, let me start with this Nigeria. This Nigeria. Fake agency saga. Tinubu orders ICPC probe of Adeyemi orders to submit full report in 30 days. And just above it, Nigeria's oil output rises to 1.8 million barrels per day. Energy Week opens and all of that. So, your comments on both stories, sir?
Well, yeah, it's a sad time for our country. You have rightly said in the studio that this is embarrassing to the country. Indeed, it is. The Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council, I understand that that agency existed under the former President Muhammadu Buhari, and now it suddenly resurfaced. It was not formally closed down during handover to the current administration. So how did, who dug this up? How did, in fact, there are just too many questions, too many questions. Adeyemi Adeniyi, who priced himself as a prince, now there has been so much effort to discredit him. His family members have been arrested. My worry this morning is that beyond sweeping this under the carpet, nothing must happen to him because he is the principal suspect here. Nigerians are interested in hearing from him. I also think that the security agencies should parade him before the media so that we can hear from him. I do not think that, yes, he has been described as a con man, as a con artist, all kinds of names have been bandied, you know, about him. But I think that there is so much that meets the eye. The accomplices, the corporates involved in this matter that has brought Nigeria to this very low level, to this global shame, global ignominy, must be identified and seriously dealt with, because I see this as a treasonable act for people to use the name of the president, give appointment letters and all of that. We must get to the bottom of this. It is not enough to say he forged the documents. He has said that, he allegedly paid 400 million naira to the chief of staff, Femi Gbajabiamila. All of these must be investigated. People in the National Assembly, the Red Chamber cannot absolve itself. The Red Chamber approved 1.3 billion naira. Somebody gave him a code, the CBN, they gave him a code, a budget code. There's just too many. I don't think this man can go the whole hog, forging all of these things, and because these are genuine procedures to access public funds. And so how did he access the code? How did he open an account? All these questions have been asked. They are in the public domain. So for me, this man, I do not think is the con artist that is being made to believe. I think there are serious, highly placed, privileged people in government that are accomplices to this gentleman called Adeni Adeyemi. Now, I also think this morning, basically, if government wants to be serious, 30 persons should have, on their own, even stepped aside. If they are not willing to step aside, the president must wield the big stick. Even if it's your son, it's your brother or anybody that the person is, that is named in this, by this gentleman, that person must be suspended from office for a fair, impartial, and objective investigation to take place. You can't sit in the office, manipulate the investigation process, and then expect that an outcome that will be acceptable to people, we come out. So, see, we are getting too much in this country. I also read a report this morning, the National Commission on Amajiri and that of school children. Road projects were built into it. The former Vice President Atiku Abubakar raised the issue. Too many scandals, too many issues that are embarrassing the country, corruption cases. So the EFCC and ICPC have their work well cut out. They don't need the directive of the president. The president cannot be ordering the service chiefs to deal with Boko Haram and terrorists, and then ordering the Anti-Graft Commission to investigate crime, corruption-related cases, and even compromise within the presidency itself. We are getting too much in our hands, and this simply shows that there's something fundamentally and structurally wrong, with the current administration. It started from the Buhari administration, where people were using the name of Buhari to appoint people. I even heard in one of these reports that at a point that the former president Buhari was watching TV, he saw somebody that was appointed, and it was alluded that he was the one that signed the appointment, and that the president was surprised. But nothing got done, and that is what has emboldened individuals to carry on, even in the current administration, to do what they are doing. Right. Something just has to be done, because these are the issues that will determine next year's election. We cannot continue like this as a country and go out borrowing when monies are being frittered away and stolen by people, with collaborators in government. This is really, really sad for the nation this morning.
Mr. Karega, let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper this morning. It leads with something different. Insecurity, halt rehabs, try Boko Haram members, Senate tells FG. Halts rehabs, try Boko Haram members, Senate tells FG. That's what the Guardian, or the Vanguard rather, is leading with this morning. I've always kicked against this whole idea of reintegration of Boko Haram insurgents back into the society. I'm not, the military will say it's the non-kinetic approach. I'm not sure how far so well with this approach.
Yes, I commend Senator Abdulaziz Yaradua. He was the one who moved the motion on the floor of the Senate yesterday. That was a very bold move. Indeed, most Nigerians, whether in the social media or in mainstream media, we have been complaining, Nigerians have been complaining, how do you rehabilitate and reintegrate people who are vowed ideologically, because this is a religious ideology, whether we like it or not, who have vowed that Nigeria is going to be the hub of terrorism, going to be the hub of their own version of radical Islam, and they've been killing, maiming, killing generals, killing civilians, killing farmers, killing children, killing women, and then we bring them in so close uniform for them, pay them allowances, feed them, give them milk and meat to eat, when Nigerians have no food to eat. And this policy, which is very obnoxious, very condemnable, a wicked policy as far as I'm concerned, that encourages, compromises the security of this country, was introduced by the former administration of General Muhammadu Buhari, who I think, in my view, feels that killing these bandits and these terrorists will amount to reducing the population of maybe the young people who are involved in this from the northern part of this country. The North there are so many millions of Northerners who are very angry with what is happening in their region. But we have a few individuals who are encouraging this. So this cannot be a government policy. Even as we speak, the very ideological foundation and structural problem is the Amajiri system of education in the North, where you have a child, you send the child to a Malam, rather than send the child to a conventional school. And we have northern governors who have adopted the Sharia system of government in contravention of the Constitution. We have one country, two constitutions. So we have about 20 million children out of school as we speak this morning, and this is a ready army to be recruited into terrorism. So as long as we keep this system in place in the North, where children are encouraged not to go to school, hold a plate in their hands and move around, harassing people for food and support, then we are going to have, for so long as we keep this policy, so long are we going to deal with terrorism, because this is a ready army that will be recruited. So are we going to keep sustaining this position and then telling the army to kill everyone? It means they are almost going to kill everybody in the North, particularly the young people who, have been embedded into this kind of, they call it traditional and cultural training, which is very, very, revulsive as far as I'm concerned this morning. So I commend Senator Yaradua. That is the way to go. We can't pay them more money. We can't rehabilitate them. Enough is enough. If indeed we are serious about dealing with this issue of insecurity, kidnapping, banditry, and terrorism in our country.
And some would say it's a good thing that that particular call and agitation is coming from, a senator of northern extraction. But the more important question is, how angry is the rest of the North about the damage and how insecurity and banditry is ravaging that region of the country and making it look like a shadow of itself from what it was in the 60s. But let's head to a New Telegraph newspaper, which also covers something that came through from the National Assembly yesterday, the Senate to be precise. Xenophobia. Senate demands probe into attacks on Nigerians in South Africa. Wants protection for citizens in Rainbow Nation. Declines calls for FG to take over MTN, DSTV. Ghana defers Ramaphosa's visit over anti-migrant attacks. And some would say, Mr. Keria, the response of the Ghanaian president is the way to go, because there's no let-up in this continuing disrespect and disregard for Nigeria coming from South Africa. Of course, this comes on the heels of recent comments ascribed to a South African minister. I wonder if you caught all of that and how you're weighing in on it.
I think basically we have to fix our country. The insult from the South Africans, the embarrassment is getting too much. Nigeria is, whether we like it or not, it is our country. It's the biggest black nation on earth, the richest country, in Africa in terms of resources and, both human and natural resources. Nigerians have no business going to African countries to slave it out. And so the South Africans are rubbing it in our faces and telling us that we should go to hell. Ghana is a smaller country compared to Nigeria, but if you look at the forceful official policy of the Ghana administration, to confront the South Africans in this so-called bad behavior and impunity that they have enjoyed in attacking other Africans over the years, it is time to call their bluff. It is also time, in international relations and international politics, there's reciprocal gesture. If a country treats you in a particular manner, the country that is on the receiving end has a right under international law to reciprocate. So I do not know why Nigeria, every time, we appear to be tolerating the South Africans after everything that Nigerians the Nigerian government over the years have done, to support stability in South Africa, whether during apartheid, whether in also supporting them educationally, morally, and militarily, to confront apartheid when the minority Boer whites were oppressing, were ruling that country. Nigeria paid so much in millions of dollars to support them and even granted scholarship to many South Africans. Thabo Mbeki was here, Nelson Mandela was here. Nigeria offers so many support, including other African countries. But there's no need to cry over spit milk. They are not willing to recognize that Africans supported them. So now that they are treating fellow Africans the way they are, I think it is time to actually deal with the South Africans in the measure that they are dealing with other nations in Africa. Nigeria must lead the way. Nigeria must take very firm measure, very firm action against the South Africans, to put them in order and to call their bluff. It's very important, and we need decisive leadership in this country to do that.
Mr. Okaria, well said. Everything has to do with how government responds to all of this. What government is not doing is to repatriate our people, the ones that are willing to come back, and let's see whether their properties, what can be done in terms of compensation. So all of these rhetorics, people just want to get by and just do the best they can for themselves and their families. Igor Okaria is a member of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. He joined us from our Abuja studios. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's the Energy Week, and let's talk about energy in terms of electricity, but Bukola has that one.
Yes, indeed, it is estimated. Okay, but before we get right into that conversation, we'll take a moment and then we'll be right back. Stay with us. Now let's talk about access to energy, and it's an important conversation because it is a very healthy consensus that without, power supply, adequate power supply, the economic liberalization that each administration seeks would be at best elusive. And so it is estimated that about 43% of Nigerians in 2026 still lack access to power supply. So some Nigerians, in partnership with development partners, are looking for a solution to that particular challenge and are converging in a conference to discuss how to ensure smarter infrastructure brings access, increased access to energy, and diversifying the energy ecosystem to other sources as well. And joining us on the program to have this conversation this morning is Mr. Peter Warren, who is I'm going to get it. Yes, yeah. Mr. Chukwuemeka Nwangele, the Director, Green Age Technologies, Ubuntu Energy. He joins us from our Abuja studio. I believe Mr. Peter Warren is also joining us. He's a Facility Manager, Accelerate to Demonstrate. Perhaps he will join us later. But let's begin the conversation with Mr. Nwangele, who joins us from our Abuja studios this morning. Good morning, Mr. Nwangele, and thank you for joining us on the Morning Brief.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Let's start by, getting up close with this A to D, Accelerate to Demonstrate intervention. Is it, the big subject matter, the campaign slogan for the conference that is about to be converged that will discuss ways to improving access to energy? Talk to us more about this.
So Accelerate to Demonstrate basically is a UNIDO program. It's one of their flagship programs that seeks to deploy about £65 million in multiple innovative projects around the world, right? So last year, I think about 5 projects were selected. This year, about 4 projects were selected around the world. And essentially, they seek sort of like really frontier technologies or technologies that have what we call the lighthouse effect. So when you implement them, they tend to have sort of a very high knock-on effect on multiple sectors. So some of those technologies are, for instance, the smart electricity or smart grid technologies, which my company and my team is currently frontiering in Nigeria. And in Nigeria, we are one out of only 2 sort of projects that have been funded. So these are like national level projects with the interest from sort of multiple subnationals, the Rural Electrification Agency, as well as the federal government as well. So the whole idea basically is we look for technologies that can change the entire ecosystem, and then they provide sort of the first law sort of catalytic funding for this is usually non-dilutive funding, usually a few $1 million. And then the idea is that the company or the project is able to then seek for the private capital to scale that sort of commercially.
So why is Nigeria, one of the many, I believe, focuses of this particular project, and what gaps does the A to D seek to fill, and what approach specifically? Yeah,
so I mean, like you said earlier, Nigeria has over 40% of people without access to electricity. So 40% of Nigerians is easy, like 85 million people. That's a lot of people without access to electricity. So when you go to different parts of the world, it's almost taken for granted that you should have 24/7 power. But in Nigeria, the case is quite different, right? So Nigeria becomes a really sort of focal point for sort of any international agency. Another thing that is happening in Nigeria, which is very important, is that you have a growing youth. So as a result of that, you're going to require a lot of energy, sort of powered activities going forward. So to about half a billion people very soon. I think the projection is that by maybe 2060 or between then and 2100, you have 500 million people living in Nigeria alone, right? So the implication of that is that you have a lot of consumption, a lot of production, and if Nigeria sort of does not abate its carbon emissions, Nigeria might actually become one of the biggest carbon emitters in the world. So hence Nigeria is such a very, very important sort of player in this space. And then in terms of the gap that the facility is sort of aiming to fill, when you have sort of really nascent technologies, a lot of investors don't want to put their money in it because they're not very sure whether that's going to give them the required returns. So when you have sort of this government sort of supported funding, also just for context, the A2D is actually funded by the UK government. So the UK government has set up this Ayrton Fund, which is £1 billion sort of fund for sort of catalytic projects like this. So they help you sort of take that first loss. So when you're able to take some of these major risks and get your project sort of to sort of that commercial viability, then other VC investors and other impact investors can then look into it and then scale it. So it's kind of like sort of taking from 0 to 100, basically, if that's,
all right.
If that makes sense.
Chukwuemeka, so, I mean, we're battling with a few things in this part of the world. We're battling with collapsing purchasing power. But when Nigerians hear smart energy, what comes to mind is that it can be very expensive. So I'm wondering, in terms of costs, what's the approach like for this? And then my second question would be, who are those who stand a chance to benefit the sectors, hospitals, SMEs? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so smart energy can be quite sort of tricky, right? So when we say smart, essentially what we mean is that it is intelligently driven. So you're looking at the ideas of machine learning, of prediction, of like big data and all of that sort of analytics that goes under it. And just to give you like a full scope of what we are working with, right? So Nigeria at the moment has 5 or 6 gigawatts in sort of distribution from the national grid. But then the converse of that is that you have another 44 gigawatts sitting in sort of diesel generators on sort of people's homes, and all of these are mostly privately funded. Now, another sort of big layer that we are beginning to see is that private solar systems, at the moment, we estimate somewhere between 5 and 7 gigawatts, because I did a sort of geospatial study of like Lagos alone, and Lagos alone has a few hundreds of megawatts just sitting on people's roofs, right? So essentially, we have quite a significant amount of power. The problem is we don't actually have coordination. So when you go to a place like the US or you go to Australia, when you have excess sort of power generated from your roof, you're able to sell the power back to the national grid. So it's something called net metering. Now in Nigeria, what we have now is that the NERC is trying to do this net metering policy, but we don't have the supporting infrastructure to do this net metering, right? Because our grid is not as robust to be able to take sort of bi-directional flow of electricity. Essentially, what we are trying to do is to build a new system, again, that's machine learning driven, that can help you predict when you have excess power, And then when you have the excess power, you can share that power with people within your community, right? So that's the technology we're actually frontiering together with the UNIDO team. We're also supported by Innovate UK as well. In terms of the cost component, like I said, the first set of 2,000 pilot installations are all funded already by the UK government. So the first 2,000 beneficiaries will actually get this for free. We're already deploying, we already have about 200 sites in Enugu at the moment, and then we are looking to scale towards Kano, towards Abuja, towards Lagos, etc., right? So it costs nothing to them, but then when it gets to commercial scale, so you have 3 layers of sort of beneficiaries. So an anchor is someone who owns a solar system at the moment. So you could have a business, for instance, that has 10, 20, whatever kilowatts on their roof. They benefit, and the way they benefit basically is that when they are not using their power, they can sell it to their neighbors. So what we do is we then pay them the sort of fair tariff for selling that power to their neighbors. Now, each consumer spends like $20 to get this connection to them. So you compare this $20 to about $1,000 that they will spend buying a very small solar home system, right? And then that gives them even more service. And then the sort of converse again of that is that they pay monthly sort of tariffs, but that's priced at less than 40% of the current cost of diesel. Right? So that's what you can do with kind of this intelligence. So essentially, very minimal upfront cost for them, and then very, very high returns. So when we do our numbers, you realize that the consumer benefits, sort of, they're able to pay back that $20 in less than a month. And the anchor basically spends close to nothing and is able to start generating income from their assets, because essentially these are all just unutilized assets. 44 gigawatts of unutilized assets is equivalent of $44 billion just sat in sort of people's locations. I keep saying this, Nigeria is a very rich country. The problem is we need to deploy our assets and our capital very, very well.
All right,
and then in terms of the people who benefit,
okay,
sorry, in terms of the sectors that benefit. In terms of the sectors that benefit, I mean, obviously, at the moment we have sort of sites where we are sort of selling power from a school to a hospital, or from a school to a home, or from a school to a small business, and they're all sort of benefiting. And these are all some of the things we are hoping to highlight at the conference today that we are organizing together with the Rural Electrification Agency, the UK government, the UNIDO, and a lot of our sort of other international partners as well.
You said a lot of things. They sound complex yet simple. So we're going to double down on it for you to even break it further, because it looks like it's substructuring. The federal government, under the president of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu, has reformed with the Electricity Act such that states can now do what the federal government does. Some states have started that process, others haven't started. So this looks like substructuring. That's why I use that term. And Nigeria is a low middle income society, not a rich one potentially. I'm sure we'll be rich when we explore, because energy sits, in fact, development sits on energy, and productivity sits on energy. So that's why this is important. So talk to us about, in practical terms, because I know you've explained it, but I want you to explain it even further using real life scenarios. So let's say there's a shop A and there's a building, there's a building A and there's a building B. Building B is occupied, is a residential building. Building A is a store, a shop, something that functions in the day. People leave from building B to go to their workplaces. Energy is lying there. So how does this work using, because this is the best way I feel the audience will be able to catch the technical way you explained it. So if I generate, say, I don't know, you can give me whatever it is used to describe, whatever it is I generate and I leave the house and that is lying dormant, how am I selling it to this building that is a store? And how am I going to be paid? And how will regulatory policy work to make sure that there's fair pricing? I don't know what I'm trying to make this as simplistic as possible.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good sort of aspect to double down. So building A has hypothetically 10 kilowatts of power sitting on their roof, right? So, and for context, my company at the moment has deployed hundreds of such systems where this building A has 10 kilowatts of power just sat on their roof. Now, what happens typically is when the people who live in building A leave the building in the morning and go to work, or they travel, or sort of do all sort of activities that life requires them to embark on, their batteries get filled up before like midday, right? And then anything between that midday and the end of the day, when basically the sun sort of stops giving out UV rays is just wasted power. Now, you have two things that happen. One is that no one is actually tracking this sort of wasted power. So what we've done is we've built a nice system that is able to detect when there's actually this wasted power. And then we have sort of our GIS sort of system that is able to tell us the homes or the small businesses close to building A that require power, right? We work with local installers. They take sort of low voltage AC cables and connect building A to building B, C, D, E, F, as many as 20 out of building A, right? So when buildings B to Z use power, they pay back the tariff to building A. Now, the system for paying this tariff is a mobile application that we also developed in-house through our software teams, and we basically utilize mobile money. Thankfully, Nigeria is one of the most advanced in terms of like mobile money, so you can pay on like Paystack or MoneyPoint, right? But then the key thing that's happening here also is that we've made it a prepaid system such that you pay, and then when you utilize power, similar to how you buy data, so when you utilize power and you run out of sort of your energy units, then you need to sort of recharge this, right? And then in terms of how the contract happens is that at the end of any billing period, the anchor gets sort of their revenue. The installer that has gone there to do that connection also gets some revenue as well, right? And then the consumer is basically saving. And all of this work on sort of smart contract or smart systems where you don't necessarily need to go to the computer and start checking anything because we've built everything on a distributed ledger kind of framework. And then in terms of the regulatory system, I think your colleague had earlier mentioned that sort of the states now have the power to sort of do what the national government does. So a few states, for instance, like the Enugu state government, the Lagos state government, have already gone ahead and sort of built out their own regulatory agencies. Now, all you need to do basically is to make sure that you are pricing this power sort of at a fair rate that has been already approved by some of these regulatory agencies. There's another very important thing happening as well in Nigeria. It's that when you have power that's like 10 kilowatts, the regulatory agency actually doesn't necessarily restrict when you sort of can sell this power. However, what we're going to do now with our platform through the UK government is to also help the regulatory agency to look into this because it's a huge, huge opportunity. I can tell you for free, some people are already doing this using like quack technicians and sort of not having the framework to be able to handle this trade, but we are bringing sort of all of that sort of global knowledge into Nigeria and that global capital to make it a very simple and sort of straightforward process.
Yeah, it's becoming clearer now, the approach that your A2D is deploying. But from your explanation, deploying machine learning to detect excess energy and redistributing to areas where they're needed appears to be focused on the solar power alternative source of energy. Am I correct?
Yes. So we initially focused on solar power.
Pardon me. If that is the case, has that solved the problem of access and affordability? Because if you're targeting that 40%, many in that 40% category may not be able to afford solar power. So how do you solve the problem of affordability?
Okay, so let me sort of give another typical scenario. So Nigeria, for instance, has millions of churches across multiple communities, right? So if I go to, say, any typical rural community, you will have a church. Typically, these days, they have solar power just sitting on their roof, as much as 20, 30 kilowatts, for instance. Now, a church will typically operate maximally on Sundays. Now, when you talk of mosques, for instance, they operate maximally, for instance, on Fridays, right? So when they sell the power to the people within their community, all those people now have the access to buy power cheaper. They don't have to buy a generator because it's expensive. They don't have to buy the solar power itself because it's expensive. So essentially what we're doing is we're leveraging existing assets, which we've already said is what, about 50 gigawatts. So that's 10 times what the national grid is currently distributing, right? So we are not saying people should go buy new solar panels. What we are saying is the existing solar panels are the things that we want to sort of unlever and make sure that their power is used maximally. Because if we use 100% of that, you will unlock millions of people.
But those people who are buying that excess electricity, they're buying on the assumption that they have the technology in their home to access or operate that power? What if they do not have that technology?
So it costs them like $20 to get the technology. It's like 30,000 naira to get it, as opposed to spending 2 million naira to buy a solar system, or as opposed to spending some hundreds of thousands to buy a generator and then buying diesel. I mean, everyone knows the cost of diesel now in the market, right? So if it costs you like 30,000 naira to get a device that then gives you power that is predictable, you know exactly when your power is going to come on and go off, and then over time that power scales until it gives you 24 hours power, then we think it's actually sort of unlocking a very, very large number of people. And then the other thing that we're trying to do as well is, as we sort of grow and scale, able to sort of deploy this to millions of people, because at the moment we're already impacting sort of thousands and thousands of people. Then we can go to more international agencies, more funds as well, and say, look, a group of people need sort of more initial subsidies, and then they'll end up paying later because, again, because of the low upfront capex, the return on investment is quite high.
Okay, well, I believe that partnerships are really very essential for you and your team. And this is a partnership because I understand you're doing this in collaboration with RIA, the Rural Electrification Agency. So it's good, but I'm just wondering if this partnership eventually succeeds, what exactly is the plan and vision for the average Nigerian household or homes in the next 5 years? Question 2. It's smart energy, and we know how fraudulent some Nigerians can be. So in terms of trying to secure this against threats or abuse, what exactly is in the pipeline?
Yeah, two very, very good questions. So our partnership with RIA, I mean, they have a fantastic leadership, a fantastic team, really. Gives us sort of two things. So at the moment, for instance, we're analyzing close to 1,000 sites that have been deployed by RIA. Some of them are as much as 10, 20, 30 megawatts of sort of electricity generation. And essentially what we're doing is we're checking how much more of this power can be redistributed. So for instance, at the University of Maiduguri, what we've seen is that we can actually redistribute about 60% of more power from the power plant that they deployed at the university, right? So we are currently mapping sort of what are the homes that are closer to this university, where are the schools, where are the sort of small businesses, and then the plan is to basically send power to some of these sort of facilities, right? So that's what Nigerians will begin to see, and I'm talking in the next few months. In the next 5 years, what we begin to see is the whole concept of what I like to call virtual power plants. So essentially, as opposed to every individual home having their own sort of generation and everyone saying they're going off the grid, etc., that's for the wealthy people. What we can then have is we have sort of a digital space where we know where every asset is, and then we're able to sort of redistribute all of those assets. And instead of Nigeria saying we have 5 gigawatts of power, we can utilize as much as 50 to 100 gigawatts, because that's going to unlock a lot of capital. So that's what we are looking at over the next 5 to, say, 10 years. Now, in terms of the security, the beauty, again, is that when you work with machine learning tools, we can actually predict things. So when we see any pattern that is off, we can flag that, right? So that's sort of an easy way for us to sort of detect when you have theft, for instance. The other really beautiful thing about the physical assets, which is the low voltage AC cables that do all of this connection, is that they are bought by members of the community. So you remember when I mentioned the $20 for the connection? What that does is that every member of the community wants to protect their assets. One of the reasons why you have a lot of stolen assets is because it's funded by the government. They just put it there and people feel no responsibility to it. But then when someone owns, say, their car or their phone, they actually sort of watch it very properly. So that's the same way we hope that people will actually watch their own energy infrastructure, because a large part of the financing also comes from the people.
Mr. Awangere, we have just 60 seconds, and I think you've pitched this properly to Nigerians, and it sounds exciting. I'm thinking of being an electricity trader myself, because it sounds like if you have solar and you're not using it, at the end of the day, why don't you sell it? So in 60 seconds, with the policy in place in terms of the Electricity Act, is it sufficient to be able to drive this process, or there is a proposal for an additional layering in policy to make this work, to cover all the encumbrances that may ensue from this? If you can do it in 60 seconds.
So at the moment, the policy framework is good enough, but we are also sort of putting together a few proposals to the various regulatory agencies as well. And then those few proposals is to sort of finish up with the net metering policies, and then also help with sort of things like sort of data privacy and those kinds of layers that sort of might get sort of very, very important as people begin to scale on the system. So again, we don't really have like sort of huge blockers in terms of the pilot phase, but when we start scaling to tens of millions of homes, we'll need to either hold the hands of the regulatory body or they'll need to hold our hands so that we can build this out together. Because for me, it's like a really large project and it can be something of huge national importance. Another really critical thing is that Nigeria could actually be the example to other countries in the world, because this is the first time a system like this will be deployed anywhere in the world. And this is actually what I like to call homegrown innovation to solve sort of local problems. And it helps us to sort of cover for all of that issue where we're always copying and pasting technology. In future sort of sessions, I will talk about the various companies that are responsible for this, green age technologies, like I mentioned, RIA, Nitio, Palantir, etc. So we have a lot of partners around the world.
And, you know, this sounds very exciting, as Jeffrey has said. Just to confirm that these technologies that you talk about that are cheaper than generators, that I suppose have been democratized, they're what you are bringing into the space. And when I say you, the A to D, right? Just confirm.
Yeah, so the Ubuntu Energy Project, funded by A2D, is bringing this into the space. In Nigeria, our technology partner is Green Age Technologies, and we are going to be highlighting a lot of this at the Smart Energies Conference that is going on today at Fraser Suite. So between 9:30 a.m. and 3 p.m., we're going to have basically the who is who in the energy space in Nigeria come there to sort of listen to this technology unveiling, and then everyone will sort of be able to access it going forward.
And it's interesting that Nigerians can participate online and learn more about this, particularly those, you know, who are in the underserved areas that require this technology. Thank you so much for coming through, and we hope to return to this conversation to review the success story and more areas that need to be covered. Chukwuemeka Nwangele is the Director, Green Age Technologies, Ubuntu Energy. Thank you for coming on The Morning Brief.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
We'll take a moment now. When we return, it will be time to talk politics. We're headed to Osun State yet again to give a right of reply to the ruling party in the state. Stay with us for details just ahead.
Welcome back. We are counting down to the governorship elections in Osun State, and we are 38 days away. Let's cross over live now to Abuja, the nation's capital, where Bamidele Salam joins us live from Abuja studios. He's the chairman, media and publicity committee of the Mole Campaign Council, Osun State. Thank you indeed, Honorable, for stopping by our studios right there in the nation's capital. Well, this is a right of reply. I imagine that perhaps you followed the show yesterday and you heard the words of the force, the PRO of the police, and then, of course, the opponents in the APC. Let's start from there. What exactly were perhaps your major concerns about their submissions?
All right, thank you very much for having me and for giving us this right of reply. Let me start off with the one, you know, by the police force PPRO. Well, he spoke like someone who is representing an organization that has to do with security, and I respect his right to try to protect the image of the institution that he represents. As far as we are concerned, we don't have any problem with the police as an institution, but we do hope that the police in Osun, especially under the Mr. Gotan, the present Commissioner of Police, will be more professional and more truthful in their approach to tackling the issues of political brigandage, killings and violence, which are, you know, apparently from all facts on ground, perpetrated by the All Progressive Congress in Osun State
against innocent members of the public. Don't forget that even before now, the various interest groups in Osun have actually called for the transfer of that Commissioner of Police, Mr. Gothan, on account of his unfortunate partisanship and lack of diligence in arresting the spate of killings. We have had incidents where persons were shot at in branded political vehicles, recorded on tape, and he didn't do anything. We have had incidents of individuals mentioned in connection with shootings and killings, and he's not effected even one single arrest since then. Forcing the governor to complain very loudly that this is a man who is the Commissioner of Police who had only attended security meeting only once since he's been posted to Osun for almost 2 years, who had not shown any kind of clear intention to play by the rules. But that being as it may, we are comforted also by the fact that the AIG and the Inspector General of Police had come to Osun, to address the issues somehow. We're looking forward to them being able to walk the talk. The IG came, he spoke about the fact that the police will henceforth be very professional, be very firm, be very decisive against criminal elements in society. We are hoping that that talk will result in action, because even yesterday, unfortunately in Ijebu-Jesha, local government, even yesterday, you had thugs went to the shop of a woman who is a member of the Accord around 11 p.m., day before yesterday, and shot at people, killed one and injured so many in the Ijebu-Jesha. That was after the visit of the IG. So we're expecting the police to walk the talk, because we don't want a state that is, rancorous. We don't want a state that is turned upside down like our opponent actually desire. Now, if I come to the issue of the spokesperson of the APC, that's Remi Omowaye. Well, it's unfortunate, that they are playing, the rule. They are playing the principle of Joseph Gibel. Joseph Gibel said, when a lie is repeated too often, it tends to take on the garb of the truth and may even confuse an angel. So Remi Omowaye has told so many lies. The APC has told so many lies, raised a lot of propaganda, to cover up, the atrocities being perpetrated by members of their party, with active connivance of leaders of the APC in Osun, a desperate attempt to capture power. You are aware in the month of May, for example, of the vandalization of billboards, destruction of billboards of the Accord everywhere in Osun. These issues were reported by all media organizations. They just went on rampage with active connivance of certain elements in security agencies to destroy, political billboards of the Accord. None of theirs was ever touched. And then that graduated into the spree of killings. The one in Ikiri, one of the agents of the Accord in the polling units of their governorship candidate in Ikiri, was shot and killed by a thug known as Ojuyobo. This is public knowledge. This is Ojuyobo, a guy who is always seen in their campaign rally with their candidate, shot and killed a young boy in Ikiri. As we speak today, there has not been arrest. Talk less of even the prosecution. The same thing with the 14-year-old boy that was killed in Ikiri and in Ilobu, where they came with buses branded in the colors of the APC with the image of the governorship candidate of the APC who killed the boy. Again, that is also on tape, recorded by people who were there. Luckily, the guy who perpetrated that has been arrested, and we do hope that the case will be diligently investigated and prosecuted to serve as a deterrence. So many others. The chairman of the Accord in the local government was shot.
So that we can take in as many questions, if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
If you can. So we want to ask a lot of questions because a lot were raised yesterday. All
right.
The police has said, I've had conversation privately, police numbers I'm seeing border on, maybe you can confirm, or I don't know whether you know about it, about 38 persons arrested. Those are the numbers we're hearing, whether it's true or false. 38 persons have been arrested, maybe more than 20 charged to court. You can say whether it's true or false.
No.
But where I'm going to, just a moment, sir.
Yeah.
I just put out that figure because we'll confirm with the right sources to know whether this is true or false. where I'm going to, there was a question I raised with Remy yesterday, and that has to do with what the IGP said. The IGP said there are perpetrators on both sides, but he particularly spoke to the governor as well and spoke to the commissioner of police. For the commissioner of police said to the gentleman, he doesn't want to hear any complaint anymore. For the governor, he said, there are the other side is saying you are shielding killers, alleged killers in government house. I want you to respond to that. Is the governor of the state shielding killers in government house? And who are these persons or this person that they are calling the killer that is being shielded that police cannot have access to?
All right, so what the IGP said was that he was told by the commissioner of police. This is the commissioner of police that is on spot as having been asked to be transferred by the governor and major stakeholders in Osun. This is a commissioner of police who has lost every form of credibility with the people of Osun State by the manner in which he has handled the students over. So the IG said, I was told by the commissioner of police that some of the criminals he was looking for are being shielded in the government house. And I'm sure you also had the response of the governor. The governor was very, unequivocal in denying that claim and charging at the commissioner of police that he should fear God, because that narrative is a packaged propaganda by the Osun APC, which they have repeated a couple of times so that they can deceive members of the public. Now, the governor that we know, Ademola Adeleke, is a peace-loving man. He's a man who could come out boldly to say that even if my own son commits a crime, Mr. IG and police, I hereby authorize you to go after him and arrest him and prosecute him. This is a governor who is known to be very friendly to everyone, even to the members of the opposition, in a manner that some of them will say, oh, this one does not even know how to play politics because of the way he opens his arms, to embrace everyone. So that allegation is false. That allegation is fabricated. That allegation is just, been perpetrated, like I said, so that by the time they say it a lot of times, there are some people that, they could innocently or, also be deceiving. There is no outer of truth in that claim. And I must also ask, if the commissioner of police said some people have been shielded in government house and the governor has said that is not true, let him make a request to come and search. The government house is a very small place, to come and search everywhere in the government house and see whether the governor will oblige him or not. In addition to that, was that why he has not been able to arrest people who destroyed billboards, who killed, persons in Ikire, who killed in Elisha, who killed in Ijebu-Jesha? The widow of the guy that was killed in Ijebu-Jesha very recently, Aderogba, spoke clearly about happenings just before the killing. How major politicians in the APC had been putting pressure on her husband to cross over to come and join the APC. How he had resisted, and then that led to the killing. The woman is on tape. She said all this when the governor went to condole with her. So was that why he had not gone after those criminals, to arrest them? I see that as one of the most, reckless and irresponsible, excuses, by the commissioner of police on why he has not played, his role as a security officer in a very professional manner, and make sure that whoever it is, the governor has said, crime has no tribe, has no religion, has no political party. If any member of the accord commits a crime, the governor said, go after the person. And of course, those members of the APC who have been caught on tape, on pictures, abducting people in Elisha, killing people in Ilobu, in Ikire, in Elisha, and so on, should be arrested. They are known elements. Now you talked about, they arresting some people. I want to tell you that claim is false. I'm aware that they paraded 26 people about 2 weeks ago as some of the persons that they arrested. But let me shock you. Just 24 hours after that parade, some of these same elements were released. I told the IGP this when he came to address political stakeholders in Osun. I told him, and I mentioned names of people that had been released immediately after the parade because of pressure from on high, from some political elements. So it is not true that they have charged anyone to court, to my own knowledge, and those that they have paraded, they have started releasing them due to pressure from their sponsors, who are apparently, people who are desperate for capture, state capture in Osun State.
So, Mr. Salam, the issues are complex, and your explanation may not be so simplistic, because I'm reading a report yet again, from the opposition, which is citing a particular viral video in which the governor is seen, I haven't cited it, but I'd like you to respond to it for clarification purposes, in which the governor is seen escorting some political thugs inside the government house. And the APC is insisting that as a result of that is evidence pointing to the possibility of the Osun State government shielding political thugs inside the government house. That is on the one hand. On the other hand, we did probe Mr. Omowaye yesterday about the 30 that the force headquarters is quoting as related killings, that because he claimed that 95% of that 30 is from their own side, and they're laying the responsibility right at your doorstep, the doorstep of the Accord Party in the state. And he promised to send us videos, but from what he has sent, we haven't been able to identify other names of those who have been killed that are from the APC. But he did mention about 3 names yesterday, and I can immediately recall 2. He mentioned Remi Abbas, I believe that was killed during the local government clash in Osun State, and one Said Olagunju. I'd like you to respond to these allegations leveled by the APC in the state, and they have laid the responsibility of these killings right at the doorstep of the ruling party in the state.
Okay, let me respond to the first issue that you said. I'm glad you said you had not seen that video, because you cannot see a video that does not even exist. It is very irresponsible. It is the cheapest form of blackmail for them to claim that they have a video of the governor escorting some people into the government house. That is balderdash. And I'm glad you said you have not seen the video. The video does not exist. There is no such video anywhere. They can't even invent that video with AI. I can give you that assurance. Governor Adeleke is not a man of that nature. And I'm sure that they also know the truth, but because of their apparent desperation in this election, seeing the trend of things in Osun, that they stand no chance at all of winning this election against Governor Ademola Adeleke, they had to resort to some forms of lies and blackmail and what have you. That is the first one. The second one I want to tell you is that if Remi Omowaye tells you that some of those who were killed are members of the APC, well, I don't know where he got that from. He mentioned Remi Abbas. Now let me quickly tell you what happened on that occasion of Mr. Remi Abbas being killed in Ikiri. On that day, when the APC forcefully took over local government in Osun State against the judgment of the Federal High Court, against the judgment of the Court of Appeal, which they are still at the moment forcefully occupying against the provisions of the law. 6 persons were killed, unfortunately, on that day. Very, very sad. 1 person in Ikiri, that's Remi Abbas. 2 persons were killed in Irabiji. That is the local government of the current Minister of Marine and Blue Economy. The 2 persons were members of the PDP as at then. 2 persons were killed in Elisha on that same day. The 2 of them were members of the PDP. Total number of persons killed on the day Remi Abbas was killed were 6 persons. Unfortunate. Now, what the governor did when that happened was for the governor to come on air, and this is also verifiable, to instruct all members of the PDP to stay away from local government secretariat henceforth, because their agenda then, actually, which they actually set out, was to set the state in a state of chaos, so that they could then convince the president to declare a state of emergency. They said that was what they wanted. And the governor was smarter than them. He had to instruct that all members of the PDP should stay away henceforth from the local government and allow them to have their free day, since they believe that they have powers from above that they could use to force themselves on the people when they were not elected, when court of competent jurisdiction have declared. Even recently, there's another court judgment as recent as 2 weeks ago, where they went to seek for an elongation of a non-existent tenure, and the Federal High Court in Osogbo said there was no tenure to be extended. Your tenure, if there was any, had expired since October of last year. Till today, they are still occupying that secretariat, and the governor, being a peace-loving man who did not want members of the Accord to go there, and then we have another phase of, we result. But like I've said, I have given you names. I've told you about Kola Eluyera, the guy from Ikiri. I've told you about Aderogba, the guy from Ijebu-Jesha. I've told you about the young 14-year-old boy that was killed in Ilobu just recently. And I have told you that there are pictures and videos, some of which are everywhere online, or, you know, in branded buses. Thank God the guy in Ikire, I mean, the one who killed in Ilobu had been arrested, Tamfiani, and he has come on tape to acknowledge that he is a member of the APC. The same thing, some young guys who were arrested recently in Ijebu-Jesha, who were alleged to be trying to assassinate Wole Oke, the DG of the APC campaign. The police paraded them, they spoke to media men and said they were APC members. These things are on tape. I will oblige you that tape if you haven't seen it. Well, your men were there to cover the event in Osun State, and said they were actually invited by the DG of the campaign to provide him with security, and then things turned, you know, somehow. Mr. And I think they were, you know, one of them was found with a gun. So it is very clear that the aggressor in this instance is the Osun APC. Yeah. And we are committed to this. We are committed to you know, lawful campaign, lawful election, and we are asking that whoever is caught or suspected to be involved in crime, in violence, must be arrested, regardless of which other political party the person belongs to. They should make the same commitment, and let's see if the police will be able to, you know, to follow that through.
Well, they were on the show yesterday and they made those commitments as well. It's interesting how you politicians get to play politics with the lives of the average Nigerian.
We don't play politics.
Mr.
Play politics with the life of the average Nigerian. We don't play.
What we know now, officially
from employed a thug in my life. I will not allow a thug to be in my convoy or in my campaign.
Yeah, you can say that on TV, but I mean, we know what you politicians do. But
no, I'm saying the truth. I'm saying the truth on TV. That I'm a politician does not make me less than somebody who's not a politician in morality.
Oh my word! Let's not go there, Mr. Bamidele.
Yeah.
What we know is that the first PRO says that 38 persons have been arrested, 24 have been charged to court. Maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the level of violence in Osun State?
Well, I don't want. You see, this is the problem. I don't believe that it's a matter of rating. One life, only one life.
Because you have said that even after the IGP's visit,
only one. No,
there were still killings yesterday.
I'm saying that even after the IGP visit, 2 days ago in Ijebu, there was still killing. It does not matter even if it is one person that is shot or killed. It's not a matter of you are giving a percentage or a rating to violence. What they want to achieve, let me tell you, and we have made this very clear. We have announced
I
this.
imagine you know where my question is going to,
National and state House of Assembly members held a press conference. What they are planning and what they have said it several times is to create a state of fear. Number one, suppress voters, you know, scare innocent people away from the voting center so that you can have low voter turnout, and then they'll be able to perpetrate their plan to rig the election. Or in the worst case scenario, create a situation of bloodletting that will now make the whole world see Osun as unsafe, and then they say, oh, Mr. President, you see things are not going well here, declare a state of emergency. They have said this several times. I'm telling you that is their agenda. As far as we are concerned, that will not happen, and that's why we are making all this noise. That's why we are calling all this attention to happenings in Osun and charging the security agencies who have the constitutional mandate to protect the people to do their job. They have the capacity to do it. Osun is not too large a state that somebody will come in broad daylight in branded buses and shoot people in Owode, shoot in Ede, and go scot-free. Shoot in Osogbo and go scot-free in broad daylight. I was on a television program here on this same station, and the first PRO was saying that they tracked those people to a particular stage and then they lost touch with them. He said it on this station, on Politics at Noon. I think that is the program about a month ago, that yes, they tracked them, and then at a point they lost track of in Osogbo in broad daylight. Now that is not acceptable, and I'm sure that as law enforcement agents, they can do better, and that's what we are asking them to do.
So let's be. I tried to be as direct as possible because Remy was quite direct yesterday. We had Remy here. We had the first PRO. We have you, and everybody is denying what everybody is accusing everybody of. And it's very confusing. The fact is that 30 people have died due to politically motivated killing. That figure didn't come from us, it came from the police. The argument now is, who killed who? Remy said 95% of those who are casualties of these killings are from their side. So are you saying that the Accord or the government has not been involved in this killing one way or the other? Is that what you're saying? So who is doing the killing? Is it the APC killing themselves?
Have you seen any of the pictures or video where you find branded buses of the Accord with people brandishing guns? I have that. The public has that of the APC. Not one, not two, not three. APC members in branded buses secretly recorded by people within the vicinity of the crime. These things are not confusing. They may try to confuse anyone. I am saying that there is no one video or one picture of Accord members, either in their bus or anywhere, killing anyone. We have more than 6 of those videos and pictures of people in APC branded buses. They are online. If you Google it, you will see it. Unfortunately, you know, some of these things don't get to go on national TV like this because of restrictions from the NBC or what have you. But they are videos that the police has. They are videos that the DSS have. They are pictures that they all have. Now, you know, the point is that it is the security agencies that should do their work. If they said they have charged 20-something people to court, gentlemen, come and see this suspect and interview them.
So, Mr.
Because
Salam,
when they are already in handcuff, they will tell you who sent them. Tamfiani said who sent him to kill in Lobu. He came in the branded bus of the APC. He confessed that it was APC. Those ones that were arrested also, your men were there. They were interviewed by journalists in Osun. I didn't interview them. They were interviewed by journalists in the presence of the police force PRO. And they said they were members of the APC. The guy said his parents were APC, he is APC. He mentioned the name of the person that called him to come and provide security for the DG of their campaign during an event before the whole thing turns sour.
So
these things are not confusing at all. They may try to confuse people. They may try to proclaim.
If I may come in there.
Nobody uses a knife that is missing to eat a knife. I mean, to eat yam. Everybody will deny, of course. But the facts speak for themselves. And the fact is what we are asking the police to go after. We are not concerned about who did what. Arrest the perpetrators. When you arrest them and you take them to court, they will make statements and they will mention who they are and who sent them to do those things.
But on this side of the divide, we are concerned about who did what. So are you saying that of the 24 that have been charged to court, none is a supporter of the Accord party?
I don't know of any. And like that's why I challenge the media to interview them, to interview those who were purportedly charged to court. I've not seen them being charged to court, but I think they will come to court. The media has a responsibility to unearth the truth and interview those people and know who exactly sent them and who they are.
So these details, like a bad odor, they would eventually come through and would know who is a supporter of the APC and who is a supporter of the Accord party. But there is another individual who has also been killed amid the politically motivated violence in Osun State by the name, I believe, Ajayi Aderogba, who, according to report, was an alleged cultist. I use the word alleged now to deploy caution. But they say, the reports also say that this individual was a known supporter of the Accord party government in Osun State, and you have denied any association with political thugs. Can you explain how this individual was a supporter of the Accord party, and how can you then deny that the Accord party has no association with political thugs in Osun State?
All right, thank you so much, and I wanted to listen to this very well. Ajayi Aderogba was indeed a supporter of the Accord. He was murdered in cold blood in the presence of his wife and children in Esauke, the hometown of the Director General of the APC campaign organization. Now, Ajayi Aderogba's wife spoke about events leading to his murder and said the DG of the APC campaign, Rebuolioke, sent severally to her husband asking him to come and join the APC. And the guy said, no, I will not join the APC. I'm satisfied being a member of the Accord. And some people came and threatened him that if you don't join us, we're going to deal with you. This is also on tape. The woman gave all these testimonies, on tape. And a few hours after then, people came and killed him. Now, if Remi Omawaye comes on television and claims that Ajayi Aderoba was a cult member, I think Remi Omawaye owes the police a duty to supply the name of the cult member organization that he was and how he got to know this. If he himself was not a member of the cult, how did he know that this guy was a cult member? How did he know that the killing of Ajayi Aderoba was cult related? Now, these are issues that the police should have invited Remi Omawaye to come and buttress, to come and expatiate on. Because here we have a case of somebody dancing on the blood of a young man, and then because the dead cannot speak for themselves, you now want to stigmatize a young man who was brutally gunned down. And let me ask you, so if he was a member of a cult, so it was justifiable that people will go to him and then gun him down in his prime. Is that what the law says? Doesn't the law, provide that that even if somebody commits a crime, he should be arrested and charged to court? Who were the people that killed him? Remi Omawaye should know those who killed him, who are the rival cult members according to him, and he owes Nigerians a duty. He owes the police a duty of expatiating on that. He should be invited to give the police information so that we can go after those cult members, alleged cult members, who killed their fellow cult members, and know what are the reasons why they perpetrated that. So, as far as I'm concerned, it amounts to ridiculing and mocking the dead and adding pepper, as it were, to the sorrow of the poor widow and the orphans who Ajayi Aderoba left behind.
Well, the last 3 years in Osun State has been really interesting. It began with the battle at the courts, the local government battle, and it went to the Supreme Court. I believe that halted and disrupted governance in that state. Now it is violence. I'm just imagining how the last 3 years of governance has been in that state and how the people have to go through all of this because those of you who are politicians have decided to fight yourself and all of that. But we'll have to leave it here, Honorable Bamidele, as we count down to the elections.
No, please, that statement, no, don't leave it at that. No, that statement is false.
We have to leave it here.
The last 3 years has not been marked by violence. The violence which the APC perpetrated just started a couple of months ago.
Yes,
the last 3 years have been marked
I didn't say it was marked by violence. I said it started with the battle at the courts and local government battle.
I mean, it did not slow down governance in any way. The governor came
You cannot say that.
And he has been governing, he has been delivering. Yeah, I can say that. I know more than you do. I mean, I'm from the States, and that's where I live.
Let's leave it here.
So I can tell you that.
We wish you all the best.
I don't want us to fall into the narrative of the
We wish you all the best.
It does not help.
Mr. Bamidele.
It does not help the purpose.
We wish you all the best. We wish you all the best, Mr. Bamidele, and your party.
I wish you well.
Please tell those in your camp to give peace a chance and governance a chance. Thank you so much. Bamidele Salam is the chairman, media and publicity committee of the Mole Campaign Council, Osun State. Thank you for your time on the program.
Thank you.
This is the morning brief. We're not done just yet, Jeff.
All right, let's move away from the politics of Osun State. Let's talk about something very touchy. A gentleman, we understand, is a core member who had gone to medical school, done his internship, and now serving as a core member, but sadly he's passed. And the reason is quite simplistic, but very painful. We understand he was asking to go on leave to take care of his health. According to the story, he wasn't granted that leave. Things turned ugly, and eventually he died due to sickness. But let's bring in the person who understands the details of this as we interrogate this entire process. Dr. Diamond Tamnokoro is the Secretary General, Nigerian Medical Association. I think that should be River State chapter. Thank you so much for coming on the program. Good morning, sir. Dr. Tamnokoro, can you hear us? Oh dear. So, well, as we said, we got the reports that a core member who is a medical doctor, because he's done what it should be to be a medical doctor, just to build his profile in the medical practice, had been consistently asking to go on leave to take care of his health. And I think we understand his brother and his father are also medical doctors. But to no avail, for whatever reason, the institution he works with did not grant him that medical leave or that leave to go and take care of his health. He was asking for 3 weeks leave to take care of his health. But things went from one point to the other, and before we could say Jack, he's no more with us. So we want to find out exactly what happened. Why was he not granted leave? Under what condition was he working? Because this could be a wider conversation just beyond this one young talent that has been cut off. Let's bring in Dr. Tamnokro. Dr. Tamnokro, good morning and welcome to the program. Can you hear us, Dr. Tamnokro? Guys.
Yes, we understand that this young man is just 25. He's a doctor, serving corps member by the name Wisdom Ogenetega Enakirehi. And the sick leave was eventually granted, but it was a little too late.
Too late, yeah.
It was just before he eventually passed on. So there are so many things that we should know about the passing of this young man. Where did he serve? What was his place of primary assignment? Which state was he deployed to? Which medical facility was he deployed to? Is it a primary healthcare center? We understand that Dr. Tamnokoro is back with us again. If you've been following our conversation, we're asking a lot of questions, Dr. Tamnokoro. Which state was he deployed to, and where was his place of primary assignment before his demise, and who were his line managers? How come he was denied this sick leave for so long before his passing?
Well, good morning to our listeners all over the world. Well, it's first let me express our condolence to the family of Dr. Wisdom on his unfortunate passing away. It's sad when we lose young doctors like this in the health system, where we already have very few doctors attending to several patients in the country. Like you know, the doctor-to-patient ratio in this country is 1 to 9,000 to 10,000, far above the global benchmark of 1 to 600, with many young doctors still leaving the country. So whenever we hear issues like these affecting doctors, we feel so sad. The information available to us is that it's housed in Rivers State with a military hospital. We are still trying to get which unit exactly is housed with. The doctors that work with him, the people that denied the sick leave when he requests. It's our reality we face in this country, particularly with respect to emergency care. We are in a country where it is difficult to have a facility with properly trained emergency care physicians. You can barely count on your fingers how many health centers has automated external defibrillators when emergencies like this occur. And these are areas where the government of this country needs to really, really look into. We want to believe that the government at the federal level and at the state level would do more than what is being done right now to improve on the welfare of doctors and generally the welfare of the Nigerian population. We can't keep losing health workers this way.
So, Dr. Tamnokro, is it that you don't have any detail yet? Is that what you're saying? Because what we wanted to find out was how long was he working, and then by the time he was asking for this leave, what was his state of health, and what is the general practice when it comes to doctors and their health? Because we talk about our own health, we're not talking about the doctor's health most of the time. We just want the doctor to take care of us, no matter how he feels or she feels. So what further detail? Do we even know what killed him? Is he exhaustion? What exactly? What do you know, so that we have facts available that we can work with?
So investigation is still ongoing, I must tell you, and we are trying to get the cooperation of the primary place where he works to get more detail. When we get those details, we'll make them public if the family permits that to happen. But again, like you said, it goes on to show the poor state of health that we see in our country, really, particularly when it comes to emergency care and when it comes to physicians' burnout. You agree with me that the NMA has several times mentioned the issue of burnout for physicians. We know of several places where doctors work non-stop for 1 week, and then sometimes even up to 1 month, taking care of patients. And there is no way, absolutely no way, you can get the best out of a doctor when he has to work for hours, taking care of patients. So this has to stop. The scheduling of clinical clinicians in practice is really hectic in this country, and is occasioned by the fact that many of the doctors have left the country. Doctors in training, doctors that are specialists already. The research is even showing that 15 years after graduation, 50% or more of young doctors have already left. And more than 70% of doctors in training are intending to leave and actively pursuing that. Yeah. So when you have that picture, you realize you have fewer doctors attending to more patients. And that becomes difficult. So the issues of burnout are key, and they're always there, And then you keep having these issues of doctors being overworked, taking care of patients, and then being underpaid. And the infrastructure that's supposed to support them is not also there. Health packages are poor, and then this kind of things will keep happening.
Yes.
We hope that these things are stopped in the future.
Dr. Tamnokoro, so are you saying that you do not know his place of primary assignment? Because we would like to know exactly where he was doing his PPA. And I'm asking that question because according to the reports, the father and brother of the deceased, whom are both medical doctors, also appealed to the authorities to allow him take a break and attend to his health. Please give us the name of this PPA.
Well, like I said, we are.
I think I caught it. He mentioned the military hospital in River State. Okay. So I think I caught that as well. Perhaps was going to reiterate that.
Yeah, he mentioned. I think he mentioned that something about military hospital, but
so we know that exact.
There are so many specifics.
Yeah.
Okay, we understand he's back. Dr. Diamond, please go ahead. We lost signals with you for a moment. Please go ahead and just confirm again where his exact PPA was.
So if you can hear me, the information available to us is that he works with the military hospital in Port Harcourt. We are yet to get more details with regards to what led to his unfortunate demise. We are thoroughly investigating that carefully. The moment we get that report, if the family allows that, we would inform the public. But the sad reality, again, is a reflection of the burnout that doctors face daily treating patients in this country.
Dr. Tamnokoro, beyond burnout and the wider implications of the unfortunate demise of this young man, are you aware if he had any underlying health conditions?
Well, right now, as we speak, not yet. We would need to, when you have these situations leading to the death of any person, you need to be careful with all the information to be sure of exactly what conditions led to his death. And the moment that condition information is available, if the family gives permission, we'll certainly inform them.
Dr. Tamnokoro, apparently there's little information available to us, but we needed to highlight this story just to show what has happened. Our thoughts and our prayers are with the family of this 25-year-old promising young physician who has unfortunately passed due to delay in granting him sick leave. We hope that this doesn't happen again, and there's going to be a reason for some review of the practice, just as we've been clamoring for a very long time. Thank you so much for coming on the program. The Secretary General, Nigerian Medical Association, Dr. Diamond Tamnokoro. Thank you, sir. And so let's get to see what has been playing out across the world of social media. And I see a lot that has been listed for us, but I'm more interested in what's playing out at the World Cup. But Bukola, you have this one.
Well, let's begin with what caught the social media attention about 2 days ago, and it was images coming through from Geneva, Switzerland, the World Trade Organization to be precise, where the Director General, our own Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, and Nigerian masquerades turned heads at the WTO Open Day, bringing the colors and culture, the Igbo culture, to international limelight. And this is the first time that I would see the Director General and former Minister of Finance in the country without her typical identity, that headgear. This is the first time she's without it, and she is in her elements.
Yeah.
And you would be so proud to be a Nigerian seeing this display, not in Nigeria, not in Enugu or Anambra, but at the World Trade Center. The Igbo culture comes brilliantly alive
Igbo
here.
culture to the world. I like the passion there, the energy. I mean, I never knew she had this. When you hear her talk about the economies of the world, you not imagine that she's such a fantastic dancer. Whoa.
Well, she's 72 years old, so seeing this exuding from her is quite heartwarming. But for those of us who had the opportunity to grow up in parts of the village, I don't think Bukola grew up in the village, but I had the blessing of being in the village. So there are sounds you will hear, you will forget how cool you are, and just align with the dance of the people. So this is organic music, I think this is what it's called.
Well, for me, this speaks to the possibilities in that old phrase in Nigeria, and that's unity in diversity. Because when you see this, you forget that you're from Benue, you forget that you're from the Southwest, you forget that you're from North Central, and you pause for a moment and just enjoy, bask in the euphoria of the pride of being a Nigerian. And, it speaks to the possibilities of how culture can unify Nigeria, and we should see more of this. Yeah.
Well, look forward to seeing more of this.
You have the next one.
Yes, I mean, women are doing great things. This time, your first lady, my first lady, she's also in the news.
Again.
I'm not sure what for the right or wrong reasons, but where she had to harvest vegetables from her home garden at the presidential villa Abuja, and she's encouraging you and I to embrace home gardening as a sustainable source of food for our families. So the first lady there, I mean, it looks really nice, but I'm not sure how many Nigerians have this kind of space to farm. But man, you're doing a good job. I'm trying to remember how Mr. President referred to her. Is it
Yalakara?
Yalakara,
How do you pronounce it?
Yalakara.
Yalakara. So
okay.
I imagine that Mr. President is going to develop something out of this one again now. The next time.
No, but she's been a champion of growing your own food. She's gotten flags of with the president, with the wife of the president. Sometimes she's not elected, but she's a politician. But she's the wife of the president, so she has no constitutional expectation in any shape or form. Everything that is done here is just convention. So looking for our own little way of making the conversation as interesting as possible. But I think it's a good thing if, as you said, we have spaces in our homes to be able to plant. Well, you have space, Abby.
Oh, indeed, I do have
some
space.
small,
it's just the time.
Yes, personally for me, I would have loved to see
available.
the end of this harvesting, and then she takes it to maybe she should do a live video. Take
I
it
think
from
I've
the
seen her in the
garden
kitchen. I've
to
seen
the
her in the
kitchen.
kitchen.
Okay.
I'm not sure she cooks. She should. I'm sure they have their cooks at that level. They are busy people.
Once in a
But I've
while.
seen her in the kitchen one time like that. So,
Well, Jeffrey,
but it just encourage.
beyond the
gardening.
constitutional non-recognition of the office of the wife of the president and wife of governors, they function in certain capacities, whether we like it or not. Allegations
That's why
are
I say
made,
convention.
and we know there are no groups frowning on that. But that apart, this is a sterling example of what we should all find time to do in our own little spaces, and we commend the wife of the president for showing this example to Nigerians. So we shouldn't make excuses. We should all
have some space.
Try to guard.
I'm doing this as well.
Yeah, vegetable is good for your health. So
I'll take pictures too, guys. I'll share tomorrow.
not a problem at all. So commendation to the president's wife for leading the way in terms of home gardening and growing your own food. But let's go to the next one. We hear that Ghana has declined state visit by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa over xenophobic attacks. So that is what is trending online. So this is what we've been tracking online. And I'm not sure of what the reaction should be naturally, but it's very painful that when you hear President Ramaphosa speak about xenophobia, I don't see the level. There's a way the president should frown at his thing. I don't know whether it's his countenance or the way he talks, but every time the president of South Africa has spoken, even when he's saying, look, you don't have the authority as citizen to go and effect arrest, and there's no, well, that was the word. I'm trying to look for a strong word. Authority. There's no authority in his voice to sound like our president has spoken and we need to be careful. His citizens are looting people's shops. His citizens are killing people in the name of whatever it is that they are trying to do. Yes, they have a right to talk about undocumented immigrants. They have a right to, march, to protest. But effecting arrest, killing people, destroying their shops, taking over their businesses,
whether you have papers or not,
is unconstitutional, is unlawful. And some of us have said, from what we have seen, there is no proof that this is xenophobia. This is clearly Afrophobia. And I have challenged them to say, go to Northern Cape, go to Orania, go to Western Cape, go to Cape Town. Are you seeing all of the people from the Dutch, the people they call the Boers, the Dutch, the French people, the Germans and the Europeans that come, everybody's documented that is living in South Africa. So this comes across more of as Afrophobia than xenophobia. So will I say I commend Ghana for, showing this level of leadership to say, gentlemen, I know this is diplomacy, but we also need to show you that we don't do that here.
And so that is some resolve from the Ghanaian president, and that is what is evidently lacking in Nigeria. And questions are being asked about whether or why we haven't seen concerted action or a vocal condemnation from the presidency, or in fact, perhaps even, a meeting, a conversation between the Nigerian president and the South African president over the continuing xenophobic attacks. What we have heard, though they are commendable, debates on the floor of the Senate, which should really translate into action, especially as it comes on the heels of comments recently, ascribed to a South African minister who is denying that, South Africa owes any form of compensation to Nigerians who have lost businesses, saying that, those homes, those businesses are registered in South African names. No, my question is, what if those businesses were owned by South Africans who now had to relocate for one purpose or the other? Would the same commentary be that they do not owe those South Africans any form of compensation, any form of, payback for the investment that they have made as a result of their time in the country, and now they want to exit? It really is an all-time low in the relations between South Africa and Nigeria, and especially in the unexplained hate of South Africans to Nigeria. And South Africa continues to seek, isolating itself from the rest of the world. And we have seen, what happened during the World Cup when South Africa lost its match, and it became a subject of glory, for the rest of the world. Conversations must be had at the diplomatic level, at the leadership level, to bring this to a significant end. Nigerians who have lost property, who have lost their families, deserve some form of compensation.
Yeah. Well, my comments are really very simple, short and simple. Thank you so much, Ghana, for showing this kind of leadership. Beyond the statements condemning these attacks and killings from the Nigerian government, I think let's learn from what Ghana is doing. Enough of those statements. So we thought we could take one more before we leave, but we're absolutely pressed for time. That's the show, everyone. I am Kelly Egiga.
Of course, we'll be back again tomorrow. I am Bukola Koka.
Sunrise Daily will be up at the top of the hour. Stay with us right here on Channels Television. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Bye-bye.